Good morning, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Alright, sorry about that. We are at property address 3279 Southeast Spruce Street here in Hillsboro, located at the front of the house. We are off to the right of the front doorway. That's as you face the home from the street. Got a 4-inch ABS clean out, although it ties directly into cast iron, so that looks like the old cap there was chopped off and more convenient, nice plastic one was put in its place. Alright, we're going to zero out here. Alright, we've got water running here. I just noticed the home inspectors will probably flesh this out a little better than me, but we had the kitchen sink running there for solid probably 2 minutes or more, which is plenty of time for water to get from that point to the clean out. No water flow going to the line. So I've turned the bathtub on now. Where is all the water at? Okay, I'm gonna have to figure out where this water is coming from now. I just did a toilet flush, so I'm not sure. I've still got the tub running right now. I'm not sure if the water we're seeing is from the tub or the toilet flush, so we'll try and figure that out here as we go. We're gonna leave the bathtub running. If we have continuous water flow nonstop, we know that the bathtub's draining it. But it's taken a long time for that water to get here. These are only maybe, I mean, in a straight, sewer pipe doesn't always run dead straight, but from here to where the bathtub is, for instance, is maybe 20 feet. So I would typically expect to see water flow get to this point, and the tub is draining properly. It's not filling up either. I would typically see water showing up at the clean out within 20 seconds, 30 seconds. So we do have water flow now.
Yeah, I think that takes a while. He already did this go.
I've got a root intrusion in the line here. I did notice there is a tree that's been taken down in the front yard. Not sure if that is related to the roots or not. And we are into concrete pipe here at this point. But we'll be at least marking that one spot there for repair on the way out. And the way that water is that water flow is getting here, it almost feels like there may have been a blockage that busted loose, but I don't know. And there's the main there at about 74 feet. We're going to go locate. Alright, located the camera head successfully. Line terminates on Southeast Spruce Street. I did put a reference marking down there at the main lateral. You'll see a green T marking. There's actually two of them out there. One of them is for the neighbors. The city did that one. Ours is the one with the... You'll see a T out there with a point facing back towards this house. That's just a bunch of cobwebs there. And you're about 9 feet deep at the main. It's way the heck down there. And you got a little bit of debris there in the flow line, possibly a little bit of excess pipe grout. That's all that appears to be there. And the distance that is from the home there, it's nothing that needs to be drain cleaned or messed with. Little tiny bit of water here, although that water is moving, that's not standing there. A big mamma jamma of a root here. It looks like it's at the transition joint from cast to concrete. Those transition joints are infinitely weaker than any other joint in your line to roots. As you can see, every joint before and after it didn't get roots through it. All right, I've got this marked here as you face the house from the street, just to the right of the driveway. Got a tree there, not the cut down tree, the live tree. Just to the right of that tree in the bark dust around it, you'll see a green X marking. So I tried to push the camera into the approximately right about mid-span across the transition joint to get as best a signal as possible there over that spot. So I'm getting a depth right now of around 10 feet, and it's coming in pretty clear and strong. So it feels awfully deep for this style of home, but anyway, highly recommend a repair on that to correct it. And that looks like you've got enough slope and grade there. You've got some options with that one, especially being that you've got a 4-inch line to start with. That is one you could potentially do an epoxy liner on if you wanted to. There's some advantages in doing that. And honestly, as it relates to that type of repair especially, what I would highly recommend doing if a liner is done is not just merely patching that one little joint there. I would try and do a decent sized swath. Ideally from the transition joint to about the curb would be ideal. That is to help prevent further root intrusion in the future. Once you start getting out, not that roots can't reach out into the road, but once you start getting much past that point, it's rather difficult for roots to reach out that distance, especially relative to where the tree is planted. But obviously a spot repair would, on that one joint, would do the job right now, but those liners become more and more cost effective the more distance you go. All right, so I'm going to walk this thing out here and just get a couple more depths as we go to see if I'm picking up on interference or the line just doesn't feel like it's tanking off deep enough to be down at those depths. All right, about 3 foot 8 inches deep there. I'm going to take one just prior to the transition. Sometimes you get a signal coming out halfway between cast and concrete, especially at deep depths. We do some diving right here, actually. Alright. Alright, we'll pick up one right here and see how deep we're looking. Alright, so I parked the camera just before the joint here, and I'm getting locators jumping around a little bit, but I'm getting around 8 foot 8 inches deep. So by the time and the line is grading down, so you're about 9 feet deep there approximately. If you do any digging, I would recommend relocating just to double check. My locate signal here is coming in very, very clear though, by and large. I've only had one locate come in just slightly bouncy, which is pretty rare when you're working with depths like that. Anyway, highly recommend at minimum a spot repair at that joint there. They make liner patches that are as small as around 4 feet. You know, you want to get a good overlap over those joints, at least a couple feet on either side. But ideally, just because of the proximity of that tree to the line, ideally I would like to see, you know, the perfect scenario would be lining all the concrete and calling it a day. But that's obviously getting out a pretty good distance beyond where the roots are affecting things. But to at least the curb would be nice, just to help bolster the lineup that's immediately around that root system to help prevent any further root intrusions in the future. All right, we're gonna do one more thing here just to test how quick that water's moving. But when I came out here, the water had already started running past the camera. I missed any opportunity to hear whether a blockage broke loose or something like that. Would you mind flushing the toilet inside, Janessa? Thank you. All right, we're gonna do a toilet flush here and see how quickly that water gets at this point. That's pretty not the kind of oomph I expected from a toilet flush. Okay, I'm gonna stop recording here. I'll make another video. We're gonna try and camera the pipe under the house through the roof vent, as this clean out is a directional style one. It feels like there is something going on here. Water has taken a long time to get from point A to point B. That toilet flush that just came through there a moment ago came through very weak. Normally when a flush goes past your camera, it's a big blast of water, especially when you're just outside the house, close proximity to the toilet. It's a pretty good oomph, and that was very, very weak. That was like the kind of water flow you would expect to see from a sink running half volume, somewhere in that ballpark. Anyway, I'm going to do a little bit of reviewing of the video at home in better lighting. I've got kind of a light glare on the screen out here, but beyond the root intrusion there at 45 feet, the rest of the line here, just from a flow standpoint, is very much doing its job. It would be fine detail stuff I might not see right now with the light glare I've got. But anyway, there could be something on the report I don't mention on the video here today, but I honestly kind of doubt it. Anyway, after any repairs are completed, whether you do an epoxy liner, pipe burst, good old-fashioned traditional excavation, you want to do a rescope to check the work. If you do any kind of digging at all, even if it's pipe bursting, which is semi-trenchless and or just standard normal trench, you want to make sure that rescope is happening after the trench is closed, especially at depths like this. There's a lot of weight on top of that line, and that's the point where you're going to be able to catch any settling problems. So you want to make sure there's a load on top of the line before you call it good. Unfortunately, you have to bury the line in order to do that, but it's the only way to truly test the line. Otherwise, when the trench is open, everything is in theory at that point. You have no ability to see how well the ground was compacted or how well things are going to stay put. And anyway, back to what I was saying about the liner. I like the liner option in this case. One, you're not digging around disturbing concrete pipe, especially, which has grouted joints. I don't like seeing the ground around concrete pipe getting disrupted when you're trying to leave concrete in